The first thing I think we should talk about is your sewing machine. This is my sewing machine. It's a Bernina 1008. I love it. Was so happy when I bought this. I have a bed here that I slot onto here for when I'm stitching, but I don't need that for the purposes of this. So I'll just put that to one side. Now my feed, the teeth that feed your fabric through are here, okay, can you see them? I have a switch on mine, on my machine over here, that I just flick and it drops them. So that means that when I'm stitching and moving my cloth around for free machine embroidery, which is what we'll be doing on the lace to create a surface, I'm controlling where the fabric goes because that is totally smooth. The feed, the teeth aren't doing that. Now you may have plates that fit over your teeth, okay, or you may not have anything. You may have fixed teeth or a fixed feed. Now in that case, what I would do, now I studied at university and one of the teachers was a renowned ecclesiastical embroiderer. She used to embroider bishops' robes and things for the Bishop of Manchester and stuff like that. A lot of it was gold work, a lot of it was hand embroidery, but also a lot of machine work. And I'm telling you now what she told me, and I've done this before because I haven't always had this machine. Masking tape, that paper tape, low tack, put it over your feed, okay? But be very careful, your needle goes in the centre hole there. Don't cover that hole because you don't want your needle going through this. So just do that on both sides to cover your feed and it should be okay. Now what I would do if I was doing this, I would put maybe 2 or 3 pieces on because it will get worn with the movement of the teeth, okay? So that's one thing that you can do if you don't have a plate or you can't drop your feed, and it does work. It's an efficient way to work, and it's also a well-practiced way of working. Now this is my free machine embroidery foot. I can take this off, okay? I bought that. Your machine will have its own. There's no point me telling you what this one is because this is only applicable to my machine. But you may have one of these of your own. But again, that teacher at uni, that tutor, also said it's perfectly acceptable if you don't have a foot to do it without this, without a foot, and just do it with the needle. Now we had drawers full of feet at university. We had Berninas at university. That's how come I got this, because I was familiar with the Bernina after using it when I was studying. And we had drawers full of feet, different feet. You can get hundreds of different feet for your machines. Free machine embroidery, zipper foots, tacking foots, cording foots. There's so many, but very often you could never find a free machine embroidery foot. So very often 3 or 4 of us would be sewing with just the needle. Now the only thing to remember when you don't have a foot on, I'll just put that back on, when you're doing any kind of embroidery you have to lower your foot, don't you? That's me lowering my foot from the back, okay? If you haven't got a foot on, it's very easy to forget that because you don't have the visual prompt of the foot being down to remind you. So you must always still lower your foot because that affects the tension and everything, the smooth running of your machine. So if you don't have a foot, always remember, ingrain it in your brain, put my foot down, put my foot down, put my foot down. That is absolutely essential. You must not forget that. That is one of the most important things. Now very often, when people are free machine embroidering, that's me up and down, up and down. So if you haven't got a foot, please do that. Now with free machine embroidery, you might find you're getting a lot of snagging and snapping and just the machine isn't playing ball. And I would say 99.9% of the time, that is due to what's going on down here. I have never ever adjusted my tension to do free machine embroidery. My tension is the same today as it was when I bought this machine about 5 years ago. I do straight stitching on it with a normal foot and I do free machine embroidery on it. I have never ever messed with my tension. Most of the problems caused with free machine embroidery come from in here. Bits of fluff, little bits of dust, everything. So always check that that is as clean as it can be. Get a little clean brush, clean paintbrush perhaps. I mean, I've got loads of dust on here, and just dust around in there. Get all them bits of fluff. And you wouldn't believe the trouble a tiny little bit of thread can cause in there, the smallest amount of thread. If you did extending embellishment with me last year, we've been through this, and I'm not lying, I'm absolutely not lying when I say to you that this, I hope you can see that tiny bit of thread there, something that small, less than an inch of thread, can wreck the whole process if you've got that little bit of thread in there. So it's essential that this is clean and dust free and thread free, okay? Otherwise you will hit problems, you will hit snags. So that was the main thing about the machine, was the feed, dropping the feed or covering the feed and checking in here for any muck or debris. Honestly, you would be amazed at what trouble can be caused by the tiniest bit of fluff, and the problem is usually in here. I would guarantee 99.9% of the time your problem's coming from in there. Okay, now the other thing is, pre-machine embroidery, hoop. We do it in a hoop, and when I come to put the fabric together for the first piece, I will talk about this more, but this is my hoop, okay? Now, you might not be able, this is just a normal hand embroidery hoop. I find that the machine embroidery hoops don't give you a strong enough tension in your cloth. You aren't able to get your cloth super tight in the hoop as you can with a hand embroidery hoop. So I'm lucky, mine will just fit under there. That's not a problem. You may find that you have to take your foot off to get your hoop in and then put your foot back on. That depends again on your machine and the length of the shank. But bear in mind, this is my biggest hand embroidery hoop. I'm not sure how big it is, and I haven't got, I think I've got a tape measure somewhere. Just give me a sec. I should have a tape measure somewhere, but I've probably moved it to something else. But I think this is a 10-inch hoop. Can't find my tape measure, and I don't, oh there it is. I don't want to rummage too much, but I found it now. I think this is 10 inches across. Oh no, it isn't actually. It's 8. This is an 8-inch hoop, but it is the biggest hand embroidery hoop I have. But bear in mind, is there really any point of having one any bigger than this? Because you'll notice that if I'm stitching over here, this side is hitting that side of my machine. That side of my machine. So if you have a hoop bigger than 8 inches, depending on the bed of your machine or the size of your machine, try your hoops out, because there's no point in having a huge one if you can't get it all the way over here because of this part of your machine. So bear that in mind. Just move your hoop around a little bit, see how much free movement you've got in here to stitch, okay, without being restricted by this. So that was a word about the hoop. I think that was it for just a quick run through on the machine, and when I come to like do the bit where I'm using the cloth in the next video and stitching on the machine, I'll talk to you more about the process of that. But I wanted to clarify for you the information about dropping the feed, about the foot, the embroidery foot. I mean, if you were year 9 kids in secondary school, in high school, if you were like aged 11 to 12, then I wouldn't let you do it without a foot. But we're all adults, you know, we're all adults, we're all capable, we've all got brains, we can all tell ourselves, I've got no foot on there, I have to be extra careful, and I have to remember to drop that lever before I start stitching. You know, so that's as much warning as I can give you really. Like I say, we're all grown up. And I personally have never stitched through my finger. I have seen it done, but you would guess it would be from a very young, flighty kind of girl who had the needle right through her finger, and in fact I took a photograph of it at the time. But I'll spare you, I won't show you that even though I've still got it. So yeah, that's possible, but only if you don't pay attention, okay? So pay attention, you're going to be working with your cloth, you're going to love your cloth, you're going to care for your cloth, you're going to respect your cloth and adore your cloth. So you will be focused and you will be paying attention. But please remember, foot down, essential, or you're going to, you know, run into all kinds of problems. So I think that's it as far as a basic run through of the machine stuff goes for now, and then I'll talk about that more once we start playing with our cloth and everything.